we've read the two articles, Startling Finds on Teenage Brains and on Punishment and Killers, and Teen Killers, sorry. Sean, what was the main point in the Startling Finds on Teenage Brains article?
I kind of got that it was more that their brains aren't really developed yet, so the teenagers, in terms of their reasoning, isn't there. So some of the actions that they have are not what an adult would have.
So instead of treating the teenagers like adults that committed crimes, maybe teenagers should have a different set of rules when it comes to justice when they commit murders.
Yeah, I think his main point was that they shouldn't be tried as adults because of that. Yes.
Because of their brain development.
Yes.
Good. And then we had another article. Diana, what did Jennifer Jenkins say when she was talking about teen killers, and what was her idea about that?
She disagrees with the brain science that the other article referred to, and she believed that they are capable of premeditative murder, and that they should be tried. She disagrees with how our system is, and thinks that we're too soft on teenagers.
So she thinks possibly even that imprisonment for life is too soft.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they should even have a worse punishment, not to be released and tried again but released into public society and another chance at life. She does not agree with that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so today we're going to take what we learned from these two articles, and you're going to work in groups of two.
Okay.
And we're going to make a T chart. Have you made a T chart before? Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to draw a big T on a piece of paper.
You want to do it, or you want me to do
So
it?
choose a recorder, please. Thank you. So you're going to make a T, and then we're going to talk about the two different viewpoints that the authors had. So this is going to help us as we formulate our own arguments about how we feel about the subject of whether or not teens should go to life, should be sentenced to life in prison for the rest of their life, no parole, or whether they should have an option to parole because they're a teenager and because their brains didn't really know what they were doing when they committed murder. So this is what we're building towards. But today we're just going to go through these articles. We're going to find some quotes to support one or the other argument from these articles. So on the top of your T chart,
Okay.
on viewpoint 1 is you're going to write life without parole. Okay, let me know when you're ready for the next part.
So I'm putting life without
Yeah,
parole
so
on
this
this
side
one?
of the T chart is going to say life without parole. And then this is going to connect with the article on punishment and teen killers. And then viewpoint 2.
Should I put the article right here?
Yeah, and I'll remind you that for now that one goes with this viewpoint, and then in the other side of the T chart we'll do the other article, the other viewpoint. Okay. And then on the other side of the T chart, it's going to say rehabilitation and parole as an adult.
How do I spell rehabilitation?
Okay, rehabilitation, sorry, let me spell that. rehabilitation. And parole. As an adult. So when they grow up, are they a different person? And should they be treated as such? Because they're not a teenager anymore. Like just thinking about how much you change from a middle schooler to a high schooler. Is a high schooler who commits murder going to be really different in his 20s or her 20s?
I should put the name of the article.
Yeah, just to make it clear. So we'll put under that, and then we're going to look at the startling finds on teenage brains for that side of the T chart. call that viewpoint 2 today. Okay, so some of the terms in the articles that I wanted to look at, I was just going to ask, when they say culpability, what does culpability mean? Did you want to talk about that together, and then maybe share where you think it is? In the article it comes up, let's see.
I see paragraph 4.
Paragraph 4 on punishment in teen killers. It says culpability. So she says, there are advocates who wish to minimize these offenders' culpability simply because of their age. So when she uses that word there, what does it mean? You can talk about it between the two of you.
I think there are advocates who wish to minimize these offenders' culpability simply because of their age, maybe like responsibility.
Yeah.
Maybe like their responsibility
Exactly.
of what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So culpability means responsibility for a fault or wrong, and it's blame. So like they're blamed for what they did, and so when so this goes really good. So this is something we can, now that we kind of looked at that sentence, we don't have to put it, but that is something you could put under viewpoint 1, just that they have culpability even though some people don't think they do. She thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
And then, let's see, maybe we could look at the other article. And then in paragraph 4, he says, reporters and teen advocates ask, do the studies help explain the impulsive, erratic behavior of teens? So in that sentence, what is he trying to say with erratic behavior? What does that mean when it comes to teen murderers?
What paragraph was
Oh, I'm
that?
sorry, it's in paragraph 4. Let's see, about halfway down. Okay, so it starts here, and then he says, so when they're looking at the brain studies, where as we read in the article, it says that the teenage brain is like a storm of things happening. So they're not really able to, if they go and kill someone, it's not really their fault because their brain is changing. And so in this sentence, when he says erratic, how does that connect with that? Like, is the brain like logical as a teenager, or is it just not really thinking and doing crazy things all the time?
It just makes me feel like it's out of control or something. Like
Yeah.
you can't predict what's going to happen if it's erratic.
So I think for his viewpoint, he's saying that yes, the teen brains are erratic, and they don't really know what they're doing, so they might just get a gun and kill, but they're going to grow up and change, and then it's going to be different as adults, but it's not their fault because their developing brain is erratic. So that's why he uses that word there. So that's something that when you're looking through, you can look for keywords like that.
Okay.
So do you feel comfortable about looking through the article and finding some quotes that would support the author's argument?
So we're going to go through the first article on punishment in teen killers, and then we're going to find claims that support their argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we'll just to start, we'll just do one of each, one from each article.
So one claim.
Yeah. So
one.
together, look through. So the first viewpoint we're going to think about is life without parole. And we're going to look at the article on punishment in teen killers because Jennifer Jenkins says that the teens should get life without parole. That's her main. So maybe we could look through and find one quote where you can see that clearly. And just let me know if you have any questions.
Do you want to look at one article and I'll look at the other, or do you want to look at them at the same time?
That's a good
What do you
idea.
wanna do?
Yeah, you can split up the arguments and look at one and then look at the other.
So you're going to find arguments from, the
Or just
claims
like
for this
a claim that matches with the viewpoint. So okay, let me just make sure we're looking at the right thing. Okay, yeah. So she says definitely teen murderers should have life without parole. So you could look through her article and find something like that you underlined where she maybe says that, or something that's close to saying that is what I was thinking. And then later we can take these parts of the articles and use them in our own papers. So that's why we're doing this.
We have to write an essay.
We will be doing that later, but right now we're just trying to formulate our argument. So this is just the first step in our argument that we're going to formulate. Okay.
So you said you wanted to do
Yeah.
this one? You're gonna look
Yeah.
at this one?
Yeah, and then you
Okay.
want to look at the other one.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright. So, okay.
So was there anything when we looked through it that you saw that stood out to you, that you remember?
So now I'm looking to prove like that they should have like that pearl. I
Yeah.
liked that stuff that she was talking about. That example where they showed that guy had done the thrill kill.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, that would be, I think that would really go well in your paper later when you're writing it, that if a person thinks it's fun to kill someone, then they should definitely go to prison for life because they are not right the way they think about things. So yeah, I would underline it here, and then we can move it over and write it over here. But yeah, that's a good idea. I think that's a really good proof, because if someone thinks it's fun to kill, then they should be in prison for life. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Sean, what did you find? Did you see something?
I have this one right here. It says these frontal lobes, which inhibit or our violent passions,
Yeah.
rash actions, and regulate our emotions, are vastly immature throughout the teenage years.
Yeah, and remember when we talked about frontal lobes when we were reading the articles and how they're not developed until, and I think that they've decided that it's past 25 years old. So is it fair for a 15-year-old whose brain isn't totally developed to be blamed for a murder that might be just because they're too young to understand? I think that's an interesting thing to think about when we're starting to think about writing our papers, and because I think when you write your paper later, you want to pick a subject that you're passionate about so that the writing will come a little easier. I think so. Yeah, I think I would lean toward the argument that makes the most sense to you when we're doing that later, just because it'll just, I think, make the essay writing a little easier.
Okay.
So yeah, those are both really good support for both those articles. So so it looks like we're almost out of time. So whenever you're done, Sean, thank you. So I'm gonna collect the T chart. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't even get a chance to write it. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, while she's doing that.
Should we write where we got this information from? Or
Yeah,
do you
so
want
you're
us to
gonna
put the
keep
paragraph.
you're gonna keep, that's a good idea. So when we're quoting an author, you always want to put the author's name or title of article in quotes.
Okay.
So that's what we're also learning for our papers when we cite these writers, so we're not doing plagiarism.
I had trouble finding the good information on this one. What did you?
Yeah,
What did you
hers is
find?
more emotional. So I think the article Startling Finds on Teenage Brains is more scientific, so it's easier. His claims are better support. He supports his argument with better claims. Hers is more, well, I want to say erratic, because she is so emotional because of her connection to the crime. So
Diana, what was your?
Yeah, so he reported to a friend who testified at his trial about his thrill kill, that he just wanted to see, he just wanted to see what it would feel like to shoot someone. So I think that's right, like they're using the, what is that called, pathos, right, she's using the pathos to get the reader's emotions going.
That's why I felt like the startling finds on the teenage brain felt a little more clinical, like he actually had research. And her article felt definitely more like trying to persuade with your emotions, because she did a lot of things with that, it seemed like.
So which one do you think was more effective?
What do you think, Diana?
Well, I know when that when you use when you try to play to somebody's emotions, that is very effective. But then when you, I don't know, facts are what really convince people a lot of times. So
Yeah, I thought Paul Thomas did a better job of actually providing some research.
Science.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was good work. Thank you. So I'm gonna keep this, and we'll use this tomorrow. And I want you to keep these articles because we're gonna go back to those next time.
Okay.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.